And we are very much fortunate or lucky to have such an eminent one as a resource person. It is Dr. V. Francis, Dean, School of Language and Culture, St. Joseph's College, Autonomous, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu. And JPM Arts and Science College is really blessed to have such a great soul, a great man as our vice principal. Would like to offer a cordial welcome to Reverend Father Tony Adaguriel, Vice Principal, JPM Arts and Science College, for the welcome address. Welcome, Father.
Respected Principal, Dr. V Georgekutty, professors, research scholars, and students. A very good morning to all. We are in the second day of International Webinar Series today, and I am delighted to introduce Dr. V. Francis, Dean, School of Language and Culture, St. Joseph College, Autonomous, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu. I feel I am so privileged to introduce Dr. V. Francis, for he is my PhD guide. He is very much appreciated among scholars for his academic integrity and approachability. At present, Sir is the executive editor of Hermes. It is an international biannual peer-reviewed journal from St. Joseph College, Tiruchirappalli. Sir is very much interested in writings in English and British literature. He has 6 books under his credit, and besides presenting a good number of papers in national and international conferences, he has published more than 20 articles in various national and international journals. Dr. V. Francis is a motivational speaker and a resource person for many programs. And today we are blessed to have him as our resource person. On behalf of John Paul Memorial Arts and Science College, I hereby welcome you, sir, to handle discussion on Depiction of Great Partition in Literature. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Reverend Fathers, Reverend Sisters, respected professors, and dear participants. There is a power failure here, but still then I think I am visible to you all. So I will explain to you, or my lecture will be for 1 hour, and I will present the PPTs and also a few video clippings. Hope you will enjoy it. Sir, is my PPT visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. Dear friends, so the topic I have chosen is depiction of the Great Partition in literature. The reason why I chose this topic is we are almost 3 days to go to celebrate the Independence Day. So just 3 days. Just I remembered what happened in the month of August 1947, and I thought this may be the right topic for today's discussion. Now, this was the picture of India before August 14th, 1947. You can see it was called Indian subcontinent. You know the meaning of continent, subcontinent, because it was a very mighty nation without any division. But on 14th August, India was divided into three pieces. One was called West Pakistan, another one was called East Pakistan, and India. Now, if you look at the causes for the partition, there are a number of reasons why India was divided into so many pieces. We all know that India is a very rich country. It is known for its richness. And its climate, we all know, we have the hottest place, coldest place, the driest place, the rainiest place. Again, if you look at the culture, we have every state has got its own way of dressing, dances, food, and so on. Similarly, when we look at the religions of India, India is the birthplace of many religions like Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on. So all these things attracted so many foreigners. So many people invaded India. The invasion began from Alexander the Great. Then we had a number of Arabs coming to India. Finally, the Europeans came. And the British came to India in the form of East India Company. Slowly, they established British imperialism. And they ruled India for nearly 250 years. And slowly, the Indians began to feel a pinch on them. And they wanted to have their own country. And they wanted to free from the British. When India was about to get freedom, the Muslims, headed by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, had a great fear because he was thinking that so far they were ruled by the British and hereafter they will be ruled by the Hindus. Similarly, the British people also used the Indian army, military, in the Second World War, and they promised that after the Second World War, they will give freedom to India. So this is a very important quote about the partition of India. So it says, Muslim League wanted it, Congress consented to it, and the British executed it. So what is the result of the partition? Actually, the British wanted to leave India only in the year 1948. But in 1947 itself, they were not able to manage the things. So they decided all in a sudden to leave India. So they just took 72 days to divide a big subcontinent into three pieces. And you know that the Britishers were sure that they will be going back to their country and they were busy packing their things and so on. If you look at the transport in India, in those days, railway was the important transport system. And as soon as the railway workers heard about the partition, the Muslim railway workers who have been working in India ran away to Pakistan. And in Pakistan, all the Hindu and Sikh railway workers ran into India. So most of the railway stations were deserted. There were no people. So we can see the partition exactly fell on the middle of Punjab. Okay. West Punjab and East Punjab. So we can see the entire frontier region, that is the Punjab region and the Bengal, because we have West Bengal and East Bengal, which has become Bangladesh. So we find a lot of chaos, confusion, blood running everywhere. And people call it, this partition created the greatest modern exodus, because in the Bible we have the Exodus, the Jewish people going from Egypt to the promised land. Similarly, it was a wave of two groups of people marching against each other. The Muslims of India were running to Bangladesh and Pakistan. Similarly, the Hindus and Sikh people from Pakistan were running into India, pouring into India. So what happened during this time? Lot of looting happened, burning, killing, and rapping was the order of the day. And trains crossed the borders with full of dead bodies. And they used to inscribe like this: if a train comes from Pakistan, it was written like gift from Pakistan, because the entire trains were filled with dead bodies. Similarly, the trains which went from India to Pakistan, they were written gift from India. And not only that, the women and the children suffered the most. Women were abducted, raped, then they were sold in the market, and some women were paraded on the streets. So, through partition, we saw a birth of a new nation called Pakistan. Of course, Bangladesh came into existence or created later. And it says that there was a huge mass migration. About 1 crore 40 lakh people were migrating on both the ends. And nearly 20 lakh people died. And not only people were killed, even cattle. Because you know that Pakistani Muslims hate cows. They killed all the cows in Pakistan and burned the houses. The Muslims burned the houses of the Hindus and Sikhs. Similarly, the Sikh and Hindu people burned the houses of the Muslims. We found a large number of refugee camps were built, Delhi, Amritsar, and so on. So these people had lot of, when they reached the new nation, they had a lot of stress. Mental stress was there, psychological agony was there, because each one had some loss, maybe human loss or money loss, economic loss. They have to leave their houses. They lost some of their dear ones. In that way, they had a lot of loss in them. This is a video clipping which depicts the horrors of partition. You can watch it.
Hello, sir. Your audio
Yes.
is mute right now. Okay, it's now fine. It's fine.
It's
Sir, the presentation audio is muted.
Yes, yes. It's a different one from
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay, fine, sir. Fine.
Okay, I'll come back. Hope it was audible. I'm not sure whether you were able to hear the audio, the music background. So these were the pictures taken during the partition time. We can understand the pain, the horror, the fear that the people underwent. So here is a quotation taken from one of the novels written during the time of partition. Between 14 and 16 million Hindus, Sikhs and Muslims were forced to leave their homes and flee to safety from blood-crazed mobs. In that same period, over 6 lakh of them were killed, but no, not just killed. If they were children, they were picked up by their feet and their heads smashed against the walls. If they were female children, they were raped and then their breasts were chopped off. And if they were pregnant, they were disemboweled. So this partition, the great partition which we speak of, is depicted in all forms of art. We know that any great historical event finds a place in fiction. For example, French Revolution is depicted by Charles Dickens in his A Tale of Two Cities. And we have a number of novels on World War I and II. Similarly, the great partition of India has found place in all forms of arts. We have fiction. Nearly, there are about 50 novels written on partition. Non-fiction, we have a good number of documentary type of works. Then we have poems written on partition. A large number of short stories on partition. We have a few films on partition, and also a good number of drawings are done on partition. Now coming to the novels. Train to Pakistan was the first novel written on the theme. Then we have a novel called Azadi. Then we have a novel called A River with Three Banks. And then we have plenty of other novels like A Bend in the Ganges, then The Shadow Lines, The Nice Candy Man, The Great Partition, Sunlight on a Broken Column, Tamas. See, if you see, these novels were not only written in English. Maximum of the novels were written in Punjabi because those people only underwent all these difficulties directly. And also we have Bengali novels because East Bengal, West Bengal, they came out with novels. There are novels written in Marathi, novels written in Hindi. Some novels were written purely in English, like Ice Candy Man, Abandon the Ganges, Azadi, Train to Pakistan, and so on. And there are some novels which partially touch upon the partition, sorry, I don't remember that writer. Then if you go to the short stories, we have plenty of short stories, people gathering their memories of the pain that they underwent during the partition. We have stories, a collection of stories from Bengal, then stories from Punjab, then stories from Pakistan, and so on. Similarly, we have a large number of paintings. Okay, here are a few paintings depicting the partition. So it is one of the beautiful poems on partition written by Amrita Pritam, a Punjabi writer. The title of the poem is A Call to Varisha. Varisha is the normal god, how they address the god. That is, the Sikh people address the god as Varisha. So she calls the god Varisha. I call out to you today to rise from your grave. A million daughters weep today and look at you for solace. Rise, O beloved of the aggrieved. Just look at your Punjab. Today corpses haunt the woods. Chinap overflows with blood. Someone has blended poison in the 5 rivers of Punjab. Similarly, we have a number of films. For example, there is a film called Tamas. Bisham Sahini wrote a novel with the same name, so there is a film. Then Papsi Sidhwa wrote a novel called Cracking India, which was filmed as Earth. Then Kushwant Singh's Train to Pakistan. Then Pincher. Likewise, we have plenty of movies also on the partition. Now, just you can see the end scene of the movie called Earth, based on the novel Cracking India.
पुलिस तो हम सारे हिंदू कहाँ हैं? हिंदुओं को बाहर निकालो। कहीं नहीं बन रहा। ऐसा पार्टी कर रहा है। अरे मालिक कहाँ है? मुसलमान हो गया। उन्हें ना हिम्मत नहीं। इसको कहो कलमा पढ़े। मुसलमान है तो इसे कहो कलमा पढ़े। ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मुहम्मदुर रसूलुल्लाह। हिम्मत अली जरा हम भी तो देखें कि तो पक्का मुसलमान बना के नहीं। मार देना नहीं तो छोड़ किन करना गीता है नहीं है नहीं सफाई से काम मजहब से ना के गंदे कम करते तो शर्म नहीं आती। देखो ईसाई बन गया मिस्टर डेविड मेसी। पादरी ने इसकी बेटी की शादी कौन ने करी थी? बुद्धि वाला जेंटलमैन बन गया मिस्टर चूड़ा। और ये इंग्लैंड जाएगा हम मेरी शादी करेंगे। चली गई नहीं गई क्या नाम है? झूठ बोलता है झूठ क्यों बोलता है? अल्लाह ताला नाराज की गति बंद कर। ओए तू तो कसम खाने को तैयार नहीं है। झूठ मत अल्लाह की कसम चली गई। हटो तो क्या क्या कर रही है? हां चलो देख लो मुझे मालूम है किस चीज से लेनी बेबी के चेहरे पर मुस्कुराहट आ गई। किस मुझे बता मुस्कुराया वो यही है। तुम जानते मैं इसको लिए कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ।
अंदर नहीं की बेडरूम में
अंदर
years of the British Empire ended in 1947. But what's there to show for it, except a country divided? The massacres and kidnapping, vendettas and more violence. Was it all worth it? 50 years have gone by since I picked JPM. Some say she married Ice Candywala. Some say they saw her in a brothel in Lahore. Others that they saw her in itself. But I never said I saw her again. And that day, 1947, when I last died, I lost a large part of myself.
Friends, hope you saw the film. The title of the film is Earth, directed by one famous lady Hindi director, based on the novel Ice Candy Man, written by Papsi Sithwa. Actually, Papsi Sithwa was living in Pakistan at the time of partition, and we can see how the Muslims brutally vandalized the Hindus and Sikh people. See the way the Hindus and the Sikh people convert themselves into Christians or Muslims. Similarly, if they have any doubt on a man whether he is a Hindu or a Muslim, they immediately ask him to remove his pants in order to find out whether he is circumcised or not. So, such was the way partition took place, and we find this is a beautiful film. If you have time, please watch it. You will understand more about the partition. Now, coming to the fiction Train to Pakistan, I thought at least I can speak about one particular novel which speaks on partition. So, this novel, Train to Pakistan, was written in the year 1956 by Khushwant Singh. Originally, he wrote the novel with the title Mano Majra. So you can imagine that this novel was written 9 years after the partition. And this novel is based on Khushwant Singh's personal experience. Today is 12th August. The same day, we know Khushwant Singh was born and brought up in Pakistan. Of course, it was not Pakistan when he was born. He went to England, studied law, came to Lahore, practiced law. After he got the job, he built his own house, a new house, but all in a sudden, 12th August 1942, it's not, sorry, 1947, he left Lahore with all the other people. He did not carry the house he built. He lost some of his relatives. All the way we walked and reached Amritsar. So it was a very painful experience. Based on his experiences, he wrote this novel. Later, I think after 25 years of living his new house, he went to visit that house. There were other Muslims who occupied the house, and he says, I stayed as a guest in my own home. Now, looking at the novel, this novel is set in a place called Mano Majra. It's a small village on the banks of river Sutlej. You know, Punjab is called the land of 5 rivers. One among the river is Sutlej, which was the last one. On the banks, we find this small village called Mano Majra. And we find the people of Mano Majra. We had all the religious people like Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and others. So the dominants were Sikh people and Muslims. And we find the novel is, the narration begins from the first week of August. And the people who come from the river, they say, the water looks like blood. Soon they find a lot of dead bodies floating on the river, especially animals, killed cows by the Muslims, human bodies. And we find this Mano Majra has got a small railway station. All the trains that cross Sutlej used to stop there for a few minutes, then only they move towards Delhi. Or if they go to Pakistan, they used to stop at the station. Now we find very rare trains, but whatever train comes, they come with a lot of dead bodies. And near the railway station, they give mass burials. Sometimes they burn the dead bodies. So now we find the peaceful village becomes a bit disturbed. And there is a gang called, there is a man called Mali. He has a gang of people. And this Mali and his gang uses this chance to disturb the Muslims. So, begin to loot the Muslim houses. They take away young girls, Muslim girls, And in a way, they create a kind of hatred between the Hindus and Sikh people in the village. Now, slowly the police officer who is in charge of that area smells some foul. That is, the Muslims may be killed there. So he decides to send all the Muslims to Pakistan. Now we'll find it is a very difficult departure for the Muslims because they lived one with the Sikh people, Hindu people, all in a sudden they have to leave. And there is one character called Nooran, a main lady character. She is in love with one Sikh boy. The boy's name is Juga. And even she is pregnant. She is not married. She was a lover of Juga, but she is pregnant now. And she goes to the mother of Juga and asks, begs her to accept her as a daughter-in-law. But she forces her to go along with other Muslims. So we find finally all the Muslims reach the railway station, Manamajra railway station, which is a bit far away. And we find a lot of people, that is the Hindus and Sikh people, go along with them up to the railway station. And all these people are expected to board the night train that is going to Pakistan, midnight train. So evening they all reach the station and wait there. Another pathetic thing is that you can see the picture which is on the side. These Muslims of Manamajra will only travel on the roof because the other parts will be filled with already the Muslims who are traveling from other parts of India. So these people will get only the roof part. Now, using this, Mali's gang, they want to kill all the Muslims of Manamajra who will be traveling on the top, that is on the roof. So they decide to tie a rope across the bridge. There is a bridge because, as I told you, it is a river. Over it there is a bridge. On the sides there are iron bars on which they want to tie a tight rope, thick rope, just 1 feet above the train top, height of the train, so that all those who are sitting on the top will be swept away. That is the plan. So they tie it around 11, 12 o'clock. Now, meanwhile, this Juga actually is a sick man. He's an outlaw. He was in the prison for a very long time. Evening, he gets released and comes and meets his mother. The mother tells about Nooran, her pregnant child, then the way she will be killed today, all such things. So immediately this boy runs to that bridge, and around 12:30, he begins to cut off the rope. You know that it's very thick, and normally the Sikh people used to have a kirban, which is a kind of small knife. With that he cuts, it's not possible, and he is able to hear the sound of the train which is coming towards him. Finally, he uses his teeth and bites it and cuts the rope and falls on the track. So the last sentence of the novel goes like this. The train went over him and went on to Pakistan. So the train reached Pakistan. Very beautiful novel written by Kushwant Singh. I think I will show you the last part of the film now. Share it. Crow. Try to.
कौन कौन
तजारती है कौन? तेरे को लाइसी हो नहीं और कितने
सारे मुसलमान ना कैंप जाना सी ते मैं उन्हें आया जगह ले आएगा वापस जब आएगा
कितना बेबे बना ले लाइसी हो
मैं की करती चार चफेरे फौजां सन सफाई सन जो थे रह जांदी ना जाता कतल कर दी जांदी जाओ तू भी मारा कम मल्ली तो बदमाश
बल्ली ओदे बदमाश की
मैं नहीं पता मुसलमान दे घर में लूट दे साथ दे रहे ने ते हुन सुने तुझे लोग नाल रल गए ने मैं कह सुने आज पाकिस्तान जाने वाली गड्डी ते भी हमला करेंगे विजय जय लेकिन चले
कोई गलत तो पता है दसो की गलत है
वो लोग बोलते पहले से दोनों सजाती मोटा सा बना जब गड्डी रस्ते दे हेठ की गुजरेगी ता छत्ते बैठे लोग रस्ते ना लगा थले ले जाना 300 400 या शायद और भी ज्यादा खिड़कियां तक बंदूकों गोलियां चली जाना जीवन में लोग तब फिर तो लोग मारे जाना
तुम की करेगा ऐसे सबसे करेगा गुरु दावा मारता करने का मेरे लिए रात हो गई है गुरु ग्रंथ साहब सुबह हो चुके हैं न तुमको बिंदु बात कोई फर्क नहीं गुरु जी पहले ही सुना रहा है क्या जगह नहीं और दिख रहा है नींदी तो ऐसे तो है ठीक है मेरे वाले सरकार का दे दे
तकदीर बड़ी धोखेबाज है पहले बड़े बाकी है और जब सब कुछ हार जाते हैं तो अच्छी शक्ति देती है वो अपनी शरणार्थी के पास नहीं जाएगी उसे नई जिंदगी नहीं चाहिए सीधी जहन्नम में जाएगी नरक की आग जलेगी मुझे उसको रोक लेना चाहिए पाकिस्तान जाने वाले ट्रेन पर पिछड़ से अच्छी मगर मैं यहाँ पर बैठा हूँ इसकी भी रहा तो
So that is the film taken based on the novel written by Kushwant Singh, Train to Pakistan. Just I thought of telling you one small story written about this partition. The title of the story is Topa Tek Singh. It was written by a Pakistani writer called Sadat Hasan Manto. Actually, this man was a very famous writer, screenplay writer in India. He lived in Mumbai. As soon as India was divided into India and Pakistan, he left India unwillingly because he was sure he was writing screenplay for films, which was not possible for him to write in newly created Pakistan. He went there. Then he started writing stories based on his memories, and it's one of the beautiful stories written by a Pakistani writer about partition. So this story is set in Lahore, which is now in Pakistan, and the place is a lunatic asylum after partition, maybe 2 or 3 years after partition. That's how the story begins. We know lunatic asylum, we call it mental hospital. But we find that most of the people who are staying, they are not fully lunatics. All in a sudden, among the lunatics, they begin to speak about a new nation called Pakistan. Because there are these lunatics or these inmates were there for nearly 10 to 15 years. They didn't know what was going on outside. And there is one man called Vijay Singh. Actually, he comes from a small town called Topa Tek Singh. That's why the title is given Topa Tek Singh. Vijay Singh is often called with the town name from where he comes. He is not known as a Vijay Singh in the lunatic asylum. He was Tek Singh. And all in a sudden, the Pakistan government decides to send all the Hindu and Sikh lunatics to India. See, you have to remember when partition took place, Pakistan was purely created for Muslims. Whereas in India, even Muslims were allowed to stay. That's why the Sikh and Hindu lunatics were forced to come to India. So they made the arrangement with the government. Finally, all these lunatics were forced to get into the trucks and they were taken to the Waha border for exchange. Almost the Indian military people pulled them and the Pakistani soldiers pushed them into India. But they were not able to push Vijay Singh or Topa Tek Singh. So this man said, I will not enter into any land. I will stand on the no man's land. You can see the picture there, the no man's land. Both the side we have Indian border and Pakistan border. In the middle there is no man's land. This land belongs to no one. Okay. And throughout the night he stands alone with one leg. Early morning he falls down, collapses down and dies. And the story beautifully ends like this. There behind barbed wire on one side lay India, and behind more barbed wire on the other side lay Pakistan. In between, on a bit of earth which which had no name, Le Topa Tek Singh. So it's a very beautiful story. Actually, Sada Hasan Mando read this story in an auditorium in Lahore. When he read it, after he finished reading this story, the entire people in the auditorium had tears in their eyes. But of course, you can understand the full story when you read the story. It's only some 7 pages of story. This is available everywhere. Even in the net, you can see this story. If you read the full story, you will understand the pain of partition. So before I wind up, maybe this is my... Yes. So now, almost 73 years have gone. Yes. We are going to near 74th year of partition. If you look at on August 15th, around 9 o'clock or 9:30, always they used to show a documentary about the partition. The people who really ran away from Pakistan to India or India to Pakistan, they're aged people, 80s, 90s they are. They used to share their pains. Okay. If you have a time, please watch it. You will understand the pain of partition. So almost 73 years have gone. Still, we are able to see the mistrust between the two nations. That is, always we mistrust Pakistan. Similarly, the Pakistanis mistrust us. And if any attack in India, we blame only the Pakistan. We always brand that it's Pakistan terrorist. And we have faced a number of border tensions so far in the 73 years, starting in the year 1947, the first Kashmir War, then the second war, the third war. In 1999, we had the Kargil War. Even if you look at the Indian films, whenever we want to show a terrorist, we show him as a Muslim. And above all, whenever there is a cricket match, especially a match between India and Pakistan, we find how people are crazy. That is, the fans are so frantic. That's how still we are going. And we have to remember that Pakistan came out of this India. And that trust has to be built between the two nations for their growth. I think I was clear in my presentation. Over to the organizers. If you have any questions to be clarified, you are welcome.
Sir, so we have some questions in our comment box.
Yes, please.
Would like to repeat a question from Dharmendra Kumar. The question is, how do you see the role of Bollywood movies in nurturing a kind of hatred among Indians towards Pakistan, as well as role of partition historiography, which is being served in textbook of both the countries?
If you look at the history of Pakistan, they also have history book. We also have history for the students. But our history is a very long one. We begin from the Indus Valley civilization. But their history begins only from the partition. That's what I heard about it. Their history books begin with the partition of the thing. Next one, I don't know why we have this kind of hatred towards the Pakistanis. It is psychologically we have developed it. In the films, we see the same kind of hatred. Even among the politicians, we find the same kind of hatred. So I don't know why we developed it. We have to come out of this hatred mentally. Then only we will be able to see them as our own brothers and sisters.
So we have yet another question.
Yes, please.
The question is, Jasbir Jain points out in her essay Indian Feminism that partition of the country, even as it reinforced patriarchal values, also allowed women more space. How do you explain this, sir? This is a question from Bhagya Murali.
Yes, I understand. Because as I told you, the worst sufferers were the women. Okay? I tell you instances, during this partition, The abducted women were sold in the market. Can you imagine, like a cattle, they were sold. It was not only in India, even in Pakistan, it was the case. And there is a novel called Azadi, written by Chaman Nagal. We find the women suffer like anything during the partition. At least the men run away, especially pregnant women, they were not able to run, okay? And the children suffered. And there is a place called Nural, near Sialkot. And we find the abducted women were paraded naked. And it was a fun for the Muslim men. Even the women, Muslim women were weeping, whereas the men came to the streets and they were having fun looking at all these things.
So we have another question that is from Chaitanya V. Mainstream history does not record much about the atrocities suffered by people during partition. Oral historiography of partition is often believed to be hampered by emotions and unreliable factors like memory loss. How credible do you think the history of partition is as available to us, especially when the historian can decide which truth to convey?
Yes, see, I have come across a few historical books on partition, exclusively history books on partition, exclusive books. But the thing is that you have to understand, we people live in South India, okay? We never had any suffering because of partition, am I right? We are very safe. The people, those who suffered were the Bengalis, Punjabis, and of course in Uttar Pradesh, Allahabad suffered a lot, because Allahabad has got a good number of Muslims and Hindus. Okay, so for them, this is only a part of the border area issue. Okay, of course, they speak of partition. We often speak of partition in such a way that instead of speaking about partition, we speak of Independence Day, celebration, not the pains of the people who suffered. Okay, we got freedom from the British. That's what we celebrate. We declare a holiday, we get sweets, chocolates, but we never remember those people. So since it is only those border area people who suffered most, it is not much spoken of or much written of.
Sir, there is another question from Jwala Teresa Jason. The question is, partition has really given away to two major divisions, Indian and Pakistani literature. But why do we give emphasis to Indian English literature, or precisely English literature with regard to Indian context?
No, I don't get the question clearly. It's not clear to me. Can someone sum up?
We gave away to two major divisions, Indian and Pakistani literature. But why do we give emphasis to Indian English literature, or precisely English literature with regard to Indian context?
See, please, we have to understand, Pakistan was created based on religion. Okay, you can see the flag of Pakistan. It is not a secular flag. It is a flag of a religion. Whereas when you come to India, it's a democratic country, secular country, and it gives more scope to literature. If you go to Pakistan, I don't think hardly there are a few people who write in English. Most of them write in Urdu. Of course, there are good poets writing from Pakistan. So our major area is, because India, you know, it has become globally a very economically growing country. We have a good number of people living outside writing. We have diasporic writers, plenty of them. That's why our literature is more seen than the Pakistani writers.
So we have another question from Boban Kurian. Cracking India of Babsi Sidhwa was totally changed when made into a movie by Deepa Mehta. Do filmmakers have the right to change the literature as it is against the ethics of literary adaptation? Do filmmakers have right
Yes.
to change the literature as it is
Yes, yes,
against
I
the
understand
ethics
the
of
question.
literary adaptation?
Yes, see, it is said that yeah, when they take a literary piece into a film, with the permission of the writer, they make changes. For example, you take Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. When it came as a film, lot of songs were introduced, but with the permission of the writer, they introduced. At the same time, I know that there is a lot of changes in Ice Candy Man and Earth. There is one more film also based on the Ice Candy Man. What you say is Deepa Mehta. She has directed. That is the film that I was showing to you. Another director also directed the same film, okay, with another title. That is the novel Ice Candy Man was taken into 2 films. And we find variations, lot of variations. But what I was told, or I read somewhere, the changes were done with the permission of the writer.
Thank you, sir. So there is one another question, that is, can you suggest some books that we can read more about partition literature? It's a question from Surya.
Yes, please, I tell you, once you start reading the partition literature, you will love to read all the literary works that are written on partition. As I mentioned, a few novels here. These novels were major novels which are completely about partition. There are some novels where partition becomes a sub-theme or a partial theme. And as I told you, there are a beautiful collection of short stories. Recently, I bought one book, very beautiful collection, all the stories. Okay, even this Freedom at Midnight. That's a non-fiction book. Freedom at Midnight, written by Dominic Lepier. Okay, and I think Collins and Dominic Lepier. Very beautiful collection of documentary on partition. But if you start searching, you will find about, I think, around 50 novels are there on partition. All in English, not times. See, if you go to the, almost all the novels written in Marathi, Punjabi, they were all translated into English. In English itself, you have got around 50 novels. Okay. If you browse it, you will get all the novels.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It was nice hearing from you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. So before I wind up, sir, so I wish to thank the management of JPM, John Paul Memorial College. Of course, I was personally there for 2 occasions to meet Father Tony. It was a pleasant place. I remember all the fathers over there. They cordially gave me a warm welcome. They were so pleasant to me. So I thank all the fathers of the JPM management, the Department of English. Professor Vijay was calling me every now and then, and I was able to feel free with him. And also, I'm able to see so many of my students participating in this. Okay, nice to see them all. It was nice to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Sir, it was really nice speaking to you also. And I would like to welcome Ms. Anshu Worki, the Joint Coordinator and the Assistant Professor from the Department of English, for the vote of thanks. Welcome, ma'am.
Honorable dignitaries, distinguished speaker, respected teachers and dear participants. On behalf of the Department of English, JPM Arts and Science College, Kattappana, and the organizing committee, I feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to our speaker, to my teacher, Dr. V. Francis, Dean, School of Languages and Culture, St. Joseph College, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, who spared the time from his busy schedule to grace the webinar with his extremely relevant topic on depiction of the Great Partition in literature. He started the discussion with a description of Partition of India and its results. Later, he came across the depiction of partition in literature, especially in the novel Train to Pakistan by Kushan Singh and the short story Toba Tek Singh by Hassan Manto. Thank you very much, sir. I would further extend my hearty thanks to Reverend Father Joby Vellapalkar, Manager, and Dr. V Georgekutty, Principal, for always encouraging us and providing opportunities to organize such events. I would especially thank Reverend Father Tony Adukuriel, Vice Principal, Reverend Father Jobin Konambarayal Bursa, and Reverend Father Lito Kuriparambil, former Vice Principal, for their constant support and encouragement. I take this opportunity to especially express my deep regards and gratitude to Mr. Abhijith K Divakar, Head of the Department of English, and staffs of the college for their unfaltering support and confidence in us. My sincere gratitude also goes to Mr. Vijay P Prince, convener, and the organizing committee for taking topics that really matter today's age and time, and for their technical support. My deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to all the participants from all over the world who chose to be live with us and attended the webinar with great enthusiasm and made it a wonderful, successful event. Thank you so much. Tomorrow's session will start at 10 a.m. The topic of discussion is Drinking from the Poetic Mountain. Some thoughts on the teaching and learning poetry by Professor Dr. Matthew Joseph, retired Vice Principal and Head of the Department of English, St. Thomas College, Palai, Kerala. Once again, I thank you all for being with us this morning. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.